it might be an issue. So my recommendation is just to hold off right now until we get some kind of plan. So, and I think that's what most of the board's feeling on that also. I also got in touch with, and the name of the company escapes me, but whoever maintains the generator out back. And I believe he said it was like a 15 kilowatt generator or something like that. I don't know much about electricity. So anyway, so he said currently that would take 200 amps. That's to cover 200 amps. It will not do 400 amps. But his suggestion was to possibly, when we do all the wiring and stuff, wire just the essential needs that we need with the generator that we have to not exceed 200 amps. And then the rest, like lights in a hallway or something like that, we wouldn't really need, but the firehouse doors, computers, systems, and stuff like that. That would probably be essential ones. So that's pretty much it.
Thank you. We've kind of gone round and round with this, and I'd like to see somebody make a motion if they would consider us holding off. And could I have a motion perhaps with that? We've talked it through and through.
Make a motion, we hold off.
Okay, can we get it maybe a little form? I hate this, but we need to do it a little more formally.
So I move to do nothing on I move that given the current state and current needs of the electrical system, that we do not move forward with the upgrade to 400 amps. Is that the consensus?
Yeah, I might just add, and I remember the discussion we had at the meeting, maybe waiting until after the initial building evaluation is done by the architect-led team with the electrical engineer input and recommendation, then we can reassess the time frame on when the upgrades might occur.
Okay, so I would amend that to say until the time that we get professional feedback from an electrical engineer as to the current and or future needs.
Chris?
Yes.
Would you mind just sending that motion to me, please?
It's recorded.
Huh?
It's being recorded. It's recorded at approximately 4 minutes into the recording.
Christopher Loader, we're having trouble with getting having me get the recording. So it would be greatly appreciated if you would. Okay. So we have a motion on the floor. And do I hear a second? Ralph? Thank you. Little discussion on that, if we could, please. I'm sorry. I have the COVID, so.
Oh, no.
It's going to be fine. What I think it would help is, I didn't know this is going to happen. Do you remember, David, with this cough?
Yeah, I didn't have the virus though.
I think that we should start recording these expenses that we keep talking about and have them kind of on a list. So in the future, we can revert back to it. So we have an idea of all these little things that we keep talking about, digging the trenches, moving that, and then we, excuse me, we also have Michael Porter. You got that email from me. They won't do anything till 2023, but I'm so sorry, but they are considering putting their a slab in their boxes on on this property. So it's going to be really helpful in case there are people that get off the board, that we keep documenting these things that people have brought up, even though an electrical engineer is probably going to say all this, but who knows? That's my comment. Are there any other comments, please?
Beth, I have printed out, so like the email that Bill forwarded to us with the description of when he talked to Ken, I printed that out. I printed Michael's email with, you know, his suggestion of having the discussion. So I have a broadband folder going with some of those emails in there.
That's perfect. If you can put it in our folder, that would be great. I also have it, but I know you people that are more, that understand this more and throw in these concerns. I just think it's important that we have records, so at some point we can review it so we won't forget. Any other ideas or issues?
I
If
can
not,
put something in writing with the numbers and stuff.
perfect. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
So we have a motion by Christopher.
Which
and
is
we-
now in your emails.
Thank you. And we have a second by Ralph. So all in favor? Okay, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Okay, the energy consumption. Vika, you were going to kind of check that out. Can you report on that, please?
I created the account. I logged us in to get the energy consumption report. And then it gives me a graph with a bunch of numbers up and down. So I don't know if
There-
anyone wants to take the time to try to understand it and read it.
There is a link on that page which allows you to quote download usage into
Yeah.
Excel, and
Yeah.
it will give you 15-minute increments, like 30,000 rows. And we can take a look. If you are able to download that.
So
I can-
how about I send it to you?
Oh yeah, I'll
You
look at
want
it.
to?
Yeah, it's super exciting. I love that stuff.
All right, I'll email it to you then.
Thank you so much. That's great.
And just so you know, for clarity, there's the amperage service and the corresponding size of the generator are essentially built to, you know, based on the idea that some percentage of everything is turned on at the same time, right? Because you're probably not going to get everything on at the same time, everything on at the same time. But what you want to do is make sure that if a practical everything is turned on at the same time, that you don't cause a fire, right? You don't burn out the system. So, you know, and by looking at this data, in theory, we should be able to determine what was the single greatest load that was put on the system during the last year. And therefore, we can make more informed decisions about, you know, if the internet is going to, if the, you know, the DSLAM or the fiber line, you know, distribution hub is going to sit on the power supply, what will that mean? That's actually something that would be a constant, you know, energy consumer rather than a hot pot, you know, for Vika's soup, you know, which is you know, a less frequent, you know, use. So that's what we'll be able to tell. Ralph?
Well, I think an electrical engineer could probably throw that number out to us real quick as well. So when we get to that point, that would be a real good question to ask.
Thank you very much. That's great. So we also are going to put the actual budget numbers in writing, and Vika is going, she's already given that to me, but Vika, if you can just put it down and everybody can have it in their notebooks. So we know we have the amount to spend in this fund year, which takes us to July 1st, is how much again? I'm sorry, 14,000 and something.
I will tell you, hold on.
And I know that they have appropriated 10,000 for the 22-23 budget.
Building, new town office or building facilities? Which account are we talking about? New town office?
Yes,
Yes,
Yeah,
Newtown office.
the new town office currently has $45,499 in it.
and the budget,
45,000.
Yep.
Okay, so are we all set, clear with that? Any questions?
Wasn't there an appropriation of the next year being discussed? We just don't know that yet.
It's 10,000 for next year.
10,000.
so
As,
the
as,
question, yeah.
go ahead.
I was gonna
Sorry.
say, so the question becomes, is 55 enough for us to do what we believe we would accomplish in, from July 1st to, June 30th next year?
I think at this point, all we're gonna do is go for the architect. And then that'll take pretty much a good chunk of the year anyway.
And maybe, just maybe, there'll be some additional monies that if the architect sees something in the building that will improve space or needs, we might be able to get that out of that.
Perhaps.
Maybe, potentially.
Chris?
Have Ralph, I think I heard that there was a downvote on a shelter for the ambulance, the second ambulance. Is that accurate?
Yes,
Was that based on availability or a declared need? Was it a financial decision, or Bo, maybe was it a financial decision, or was it a we don't believe it's necessary decision?
It was a little bit of both. So
Totally loaded question, and I'm not even on the island, so I can just throw these.
go right ahead.
Christopher, if you read your minutes, you might come up with some of those. It's been determined
Well,
on.
I was just trying to recall. I was 90% sure that had happened. I was trying to figure out, do we need more if we're going to take another run at that?
Maybe that's what's in, maybe we'll find that will be a need in the 45,000 that we have. So, we've got something there, and I guess if we go on to the next item on the list, discussing the architect process, perhaps we've been given some numbers. Would it be appropriate to kind of make a estimated guess on, if we got as far as a schematic design, what that might cost? Dave, would you dare to say?
I did go through that. Yeah, after getting all the final pages through from Port City's proposal, which I think would be the higher end of the two to compare, just for budgetary purposes. They had an optional site selection task, which was an additional 5,500, but their total was about 35,000. That would be the maximum all-in sort of fee allowance, I guess, if you want to call it that. And that would get us through existing building conditions analysis, conceptual design, potentially alternative site selections, review meetings, feasibility study deliverables, and some allowances for some meetings with stakeholders, selectmen, board, and public meetings. So that would take us to, for instance, a presentation at town meeting, say in 2023, with a firm proposal to either go for funding or suggest a bond or, whatever process we would do to move forward into what I think the RFP calls phase 2, which would be the final design. So we're setting ourselves up for approval to go forward into final design with this phase 1 work. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. Any questions on that piece? Having said that, Dave, would you mind doing kind of an overview of our process with looking at the architect's proposals and our determinations and
Sure.
what? That would be great. Thank you.
Sure. Okay. So yeah, just a historic overview of what we've been through, the committee's work to date. An RFP was developed and publicly posted in September of 21, soliciting architectural services with a goal of improving the town's public safety and town office building on North Road. We received, and the RFP, again, as I said before, is outlining work for a phase 1 of the work, which is the feasibility study phase, and addressing specific deficiencies in the building currently. Proposals with qualifications and fee projections were received later in the fall of 2021. 2 firms submitted, Archetype and Port City, both well-qualified firms in Portland. Those RFPs were, the proposals were reviewed, and then we requested some specific references for each firm. Those were received, and telephone interviews were conducted. And then we elected to have informal interviews on March the 3rd. And that process dealt with interviewing the 2 firms, and we developed 8 specific questions for each firm to respond to relating to the proposed work. And after which the committee met and we discussed the feedback from the reference contacts, the 8 interview questions that were asked and the responses from each firm. And then we went through the 12 selection criteria that were listed in the RFP. At which point we discussed that and came to a general consensus on how we might proceed.
Does anyone have any questions regarding that historical update, if you will, explaining how we did it? Because that's important that we may demonstrate or show that to the EOS. So having said that, could I have a motion perhaps?
To, what was
Okay,
the motion?
I'm sorry. Could I have a motion to, does anyone have a motion that they would like to put forth on a selection?
I think that we should make a motion, or I'll make a motion to move forward with Port City for the architectural design.
Is there a second on that?
I will second it. Yeah. You can document me, yeah. There is a second so that because the second is to get it to the floor for discussion.
Right.
Yep.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. We'll open it up. Does anybody have any comments or questions, concerns?
I guess just to review the process, what we're doing is making a recommendation to the Board of Selectmen to then make a decision to proceed with the recommended firm. Then we would have some additional interaction with that firm to fine tune the scope of work, prepare the contract, the consultant contract, and then bring that back to the board for final approval for hiring. Is that how it would
Yeah,
work?
so the way it stands right now is up until this point, the committee has done the work that Board of Selectmen had asked them to do. we now make a recommendation to them to sign an agreement, for that first phase with the particular architect that the board is recommending, the facilities committee is recommending. If they approve that, they need to then authorize the facilities committee to continue the conversation with the board. So at this point, it's not the facilities committee's place to contact either of those architectural designs. We need that direction from the Board of Selectmen. If they determine and make a decision one way or another, and then they can proceed with letting us know. You can contact, if they approve, Port City to let them know. You can, contact the other one to let them know that we decided to not go with them, and then, see where they take with what they present for the next steps.
Thank you. Ralph, when you made your motion indicated you are recommending that you are selecting Port City as the recommendation to go to the board for their approval. You're recommending it.
Correct.
And what that will mean is that if we do not agree to that, then we'll vote up or down Ralph's motion, and that would leave us with a separate motion on the other, if we were to recommend them, just in a parliamentary process perspective. Is that right, Vika?
Chris, thank you. I
Yeah.
appreciate that.
Yeah, it's a tricky. We have to act on the question that was asked or the motion that was proposed, and then if there's an alternative, that we would re-motion, if that's a thing.
So now we have a recommendation and a second to that recommendation, and now we will vote.
We would open to discussion.
I did ask that.
Okay, yeah.
I'm sorry.
That's what we're doing right now, is discussing it.
So is there any more discussion on this? I feel comfortable saying that I think we had a very good process and it was reviewed carefully.
So I think that we need to provide, although not necessarily for the motion, but the reasoning for the motion when we present this back to the Board of Selectmen is that our selection was based on, our criteria, and I think that was the meeting I missed. So
We're gonna need so all of the paperwork that we advertised for the reason, for what we were gonna base our decision off of, and the questions that we asked when we interviewed, we're gonna need to present that information to them, because we can't just go to them and say, this is what we recommend, support us. They're gonna wanna know what those reasons are and why that decision was made.
There was also some discussion, I think last time, about having a representative from Port City attend the Board of Selectmen meeting in case they had any specific questions to ask them. If that might help them in their decision making. Is it?
Yeah, I mean, we can do it now, or we can do it after, once we fine tune. You can do the recommendation to the Board of Selectmen, and they might ask the facility committee to go ahead and get either a contract or fine tune the numbers with Port City. And at that point, I would say we need a rep at the meeting if the board has any further questions.
Okay.
But as far as just going, yes, we recommend this one because of this and this and this. Okay. And then I think, my opinion is they're probably going to appoint the facility committee to continue working with Port City to fine tune the details. So.
Chris, would you mind taking over the meeting as far as we just got, when our next meeting is and everything? But I didn't I haven't had any coughing until now, so I apologize again. But can you make sure that we're good with our motion and how it's presented and we voted correctly? Is there anything else that we?
We do need to vote. We have not voted on the motion yet. So if we're done with the discussion, we need to vote and then we can.
Let me just, since I was not on the last call and I apologize for that. That was a work-related conflict. Was this a fairly unanimous, or was it obvious to the members here what the right call was? Great. That's, trust you guys. And I know you guys did the vetting, so great. So from that standpoint, if there are no other questions, then we will vote on the motion that Ralph presented, which was to make the recommendation for Port City for the architectural phase of this committee's work. All in favor? Okay. That was, and all opposed? Oh, that was a test. You didn't move. Awesome.
Green.
You didn't say Simon Says.
Yeah, no. Okay.
Okay, I've got a cough drop in, so let's see if I
Okay.
can fix this. We need to discuss a time for our next meeting. And having said that, do we need that meeting to prepare information that we want to send to the board for review? Or do we feel that we can put that all in order as a packet and send that to the board with our recommendation and see if they want to have us in one of their meetings? How would you all suggest we do that?
I would imagine that we would prepare our recommendation with supporting documents, and that we would ask for a line item in the agenda for the Board of Selectmen where we would make where one of us would present that to the board in that meeting and say, these are the findings of the committee, and we request action in the following, and here's the material to take action on. This is the action that is required should you wish to move forward.
Chris, you were chair at one time for the board, is that correct?
Sadly, so yes.
So I think that you also have a good handle on that. Does that seem okay with everybody, or do we need a meeting to put things together?
Well, I'll volunteer to write up the process that I just ran through, and I can add the interview questions and the RFP questions, selection criteria, and our responses to that. If we want to get into that much detail, and send that out for review, and then if somebody else wants to, edit that or present it, that is fine.
I think that would be wonderful. I feel really good that we have the information in order and how the process, don't you? I mean, I think it's a good way that we did it. And I think it also gives a sense of comfort so they see that there was a process. So having said that, you'll do that.
Beth, as a chair, do you want to be the one that presents the information to the Board of Selectmen? Because we are meeting in person now, so we would need somebody presently there
Right.
to do the presentation. And
I don't think that, I don't mind presenting it, but I do want a team there. I'd like Dave there. I'd like all of you there. So if they have particular questions that you'll be able to step up to the plate. So that can be done by Zoom. They do, you can't.
nope, no. So we have a policy that A selectman, if they have a specific reason that they have to be absent, can participate through Zoom, in which case it allows other individuals to join and participate. That, as the policy states, if all of the selectmen are present, other individuals cannot participate. They can view and they can listen, but they cannot have involved participation through Zoom when the meetings are live, which is why I was suggesting that with you as a chair, it might make sense for you to present, because I'm not sure with David and Chris, with them being out of state, that would be feasible for them to be able to make it to those meetings.
Ralph?
Do you know when that meeting would be, Vika?
Well, that's where I want us to ask them, because they're right in the middle of a lot of things. So,
I think that this particular thing will go probably on the second meeting in April.
okay,
So I would just say that if David's not here, we can have him on the phone. So if they have a question, we can ask for him. We can use him as our phone a friend. Same with Chris, if he doesn't want to come out and hang out on the island for a night.
the lifelines, we'll have the
Yeah.
lifelines out.
Yeah.
It's actually technically possible, Beth, for you to have a computer with Zoom on it, and you would have your committee right there behind you. You would just have to, if there was a question, you would turn to us. We would say our stuff, and then you would communicate that back out.
I suspect I will be there. I don't know how much help I am in this process, but I don't see any reason that I can't be there.
Yeah.
So I think realistically, this is probably going to go on the April 20th Board of Selectmen's meeting.
Okay,
Because the agenda is going to get pretty full on the first week in April. Yeah, so I think that's probably going to be the date that it will go on.
Is Easter the 20th? It's Orthodox Easter, never mind. Easter is the 17th. Okay.
okay, so we've got a plan. I think I'm gonna be fine, because I will have this all in order and with everybody's help. And we'll.
And Beth, you will have, you'll have Bo and I there too, which I know, Bo can't exactly vote, but he's been a part of this. So if there are questions raised, he can answer certain things and I can answer certain things, and we can work on getting Ralph there.
I think it's fine. I'm fine with that. Okay, so we're gonna plan to put our packet together for that. And David, you had a question?
Yeah, what's the deadline for submitting information for the board to review prior to the meeting?
What we're gonna need it by is probably realistically by the 13th of April. So then, if we have, it would be nice if it was, by the 11th or that 12th, but I can touch base with Donna and let her know that this is going to be on the agenda. And if we have any information that we would need to put in the packet by the 13th, 14th, because we do have to advertise it and post it by the 15th. And so the agenda kind of needs to be somewhat solid by that time frame.
Okay,
We have
well, I'll get this outline done next week and out to everybody, and then we can decide to either add things to it or edit it as such.
Great.
We could hold a brief meeting to review that packet on April 7th, which is the Thursday before the 11th.
Yeah.
And we could just say, yeah, we all agree. This is the great packet. And then it's all done, effectively 2 weeks in advance.
I don't have
Can
a
we do that
problem
through
with
email?
We could do it via email as well. Like I said, we could do a 15-minute formal meeting, say, yes, we all agree. This is how we're going to do it. We can write the script out for Beth, so she's, feels good about her public speaking. Yeah, do a dry run.
No, I'm gonna have earphones in, don't worry. I'm gonna have those, my hair will be longer and I'm just going to be saying what you say to say. No, I'm just kidding. I really feel proud of what we've done, and I'm not concerned about it. Except when they get to the technical, and I don't believe that they can, and we'll answer that question at a later date. So I'm not worried. But I am concerned that when should our next meeting be? Do we need a meeting before? Do we have things that we need to move on? I know we've got to talk about the public. I had mentioned a newsletter, which I do have copies from Arundel's newsletter, which was a great way to let the people know. And we've already given updates. We've got two updates in our under our belt with the board, and they were both public meetings. So, Bo, what is your thoughts?
So my thoughts are, David's going to send out a brief description of what to give to the Board of Selectmen as a recommendation. If we can do that via email, it'd be great. If we all have like 1,000 different things we want to change on it or whatever, then it makes sense to have a meeting to fine tune it together. But if what David writes, I mean, based on what he wrote, just to tell us a brief description of it was fine for me, but because I know the details. So if we agree on emails, I think we should meet after the Board of Selectmen approves it. Because I don't think any time before that is counterproductive, I think.
Okay. David?
I'm just wondering if we want to use the Board of Selectmen meeting as a public forum to sort of restate the need. Kind of getting back to, I think, one of Ralph's comments at the last meeting, just keep hammering away at how important this is and why we're doing it, right? I mean, we're not just saying we want to hire an architect willy-nilly. We've got why, right? Answer the question why.
I think that's a good idea.
Okay. So are we in agreement that we'll check out the email when it comes and go from there? And then if you could look at your calendars after the 20th of April, are Thursdays working for everybody?
Yes.
Yes.
So would we, do we want to do it on the 21st with hopes that they make a decision, or give it a week and do it on the 28th of April?
I would vote for the 21st. I'm just thinking about the firms, getting back to them and making sure that we haven't
It's a great
lost them in this
Yeah,
long process, right?
exactly.
Get on
That's
the-
a great
get on the-
point.
Get on their schedule, they may have a workload issue to work into it.
Okay, so we know we're not supposed to be in touch with them. That's the board's decision. So we're going to do the meeting with the board on the 20th, and we're going to have our 5 o'clock meeting. Can you look at your schedule, Ralph, that far ahead? Do you know if you'll be around?
I will be around.
Awesome. Okay, so we've got a meeting for the 21st. Thank you, folks, very much. Is there any other items that we need to discuss at this time?
I'd like to make a move to adjourn, but I want to come back real quickly because I wasn't on the decision-making call. One of the things, David, I remember you mentioned was that there was a difference between that you were looking at the add-ons, if you will, that you believed would be necessary in order to complete the work. Is that ringing a bell? Yeah.
Yeah, I don't remember if I said add-ons, but I think we were talking about adjusting the scope to address, how shall I put it, sort of a phased implementation strategy, rather than, and it came up during the interviews where both firms actually, and that's how they read the RFP, but they're both sort of approach this like, okay, let's design a building and go build it, sort of thing, rather than, well, wait, let's look and see what we've got. Let's look at the budget, the monies that are available, which is probably going to be tight. What are some incremental master planning ideas that we can think about of how to get to where we want to be? And there may be 3 or 4 different alternative paths, of spending money at different rates to get to the end point. But I think it was just maybe just expanding that scope just slightly to look to approach the project that way, rather
Yeah.
than just an instantaneous full build out.
Yeah, so my question then along those lines are, is going back to the financials that we were discussing at the beginning of the call, is based on the original quote and any gaps that you saw, are we good with $55,000 or $45,000 to $50,000? Is there nothing omitted from what we believe is the right scope of work where we would find ourselves going, gosh, I wish we had put another 10,000 in?
No, I think it's a pretty minor adjustment to that scope, and maybe it's one more task that we add that's a few $1,000s. I can't imagine it being significant. Yeah.
Great. Okay, awesome. I'm satisfied. I move to adjourn with.
Second? All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you all, and great questions, and I think we're on a road here, a good road.
Have a good
Happy
night.
St. Patrick's
Have a
Day.
good night. Thank you,
Yeah,
everybody.
happy
Happy St. Patrick's Day.
Bye now.
Bye.